G'day guys, MFWest here, and today we have, I guess, breaking news. Blizzard have announced the Shadowlands class changes, or preliminary changes, I guess, an early preview which could definitely change throughout the alpha and beta. But this is kind of the core things that they want to change, and it's pretty much a good idea of what we're looking at into going into Shadowlands. So it's pretty big, guys. In terms of Death Knight changes, nothing too drastic, nothing I didn't really expect. So let's see what this means for us, and then we can briefly talk about other classes. Then I'll touch base on the Covenant abilities as well. Alright, so first things first, all Death Knight specs are receiving the following abilities: Death and Decay, Anti-Magic Zone, Lichborn, Raise Dead, Chains of Ice. Okay, right, so this is going back all the way to like Wrath of the Lich King. Each spec having a pet. Now, this is what's going to make me just laugh even more. Frost Death Knights obviously play the spec because they like just not having to worry about macroing a pet. Well, guess what? Now, now you're gonna have to worry about macroing a pet, and I think that's great. I think Death Knight always should have have a pet. That's the class fantasy. Raising the Dead. It doesn't have to be Unholy specific. I think that all specs should have it. And because of our ability to raise the dead, we'll gain an ability called Sacrificial Pact. Sacrifices one of the undead minions, siphoning their health and causing them to explode and deal damage to nearby enemies. So each spec just got an AoE ability. Now let's just talk about what this means. Death and Decay for Frost. Very, very strange, right? I don't know how that's going to actually work with Frost. They're going to have some kind of synergy there. Anti-Magic Zone is now back. That is huge. So for us Death Knights who only raid or only do Mythic, well, I guess in general, let's just talk about the whole grand scheme of things. This is massive for raiding, guys, and Death Knight utility. Right now, all we bring in raids is damage, which is pretty boring because everyone else brings damage, a Brez, Death Grip, and that's about it, guys. Now we offer a 30% magic damage reduction, which in raid groups is humongous. This just put us on the map in terms of being, it's going to be just as valuable as Darkness. Honestly, like it's a huge cooldown, and everyone that raided from Wrath up until WoD will know how good Anti-Magic Zone is. Lichborn is another defensive that we don't have to spec into for PvP. Yay, so more survivability in PvP. Chains of Ice is going to be for blood as well, which is pretty funny. Yeah, and so this ability here, Sacrificial Pact, I guess honestly, I picture the Azerite ability, Corpse Explosion, so nothing really amazing about that. I'll just skip Blood and Frost and go straight to Unholy and then go back. So, Summon Gargoyle is now baseline. Now, does that mean that that is the new Gargoyle, right? That is the new Dark Arbiter / Gargoyle, where the more runic power we use, the more damage it does, or are they baking it back into the old Gargoyle? It's I'm sure they mean the new current Gargoyle, how it is now. That will obviously, as the alpha hits, we'll be able to check that straight away, which is really awesome. But that is huge. So that's a huge single target damage boost. It's a 3-minute cooldown, but just having an extra cooldown is really big. Okay, I think that's really important. Now here's this new Army of the Damned talent. They've kind of changed it, I guess, and honestly, it's not even a big deal. Army of the Damned returns as even stronger force of familiar and faithful recruit and Magus of the Dead. These formidable magic wielders have fought side by side with Maldraxxus Bannerman, and their presence rallies Unholy Death Knight's ghoulish armies, lobbing Frostbolts and Shadowbolts bolts into the enemy. So they've basically taken Magus from BFA and baked it into Army of the Damned. So now Army of the Damned, honestly, it probably will be a bit more valuable in terms of DPS because the Magus do a lot more damage than our normal ghouls, so that will be interesting. Next thing, Army of the Dead, reduced by Death Coil and Epidemic casts. Now that is quite interesting. So what they're doing here is they're taking the tier set bonus, I guess, kind of taking the tier set bonus from Tumus Argeris kind of thing. We're trying to reduce the cooldown of Army of the Dead, trying to stop it from being a stupid 8-minute cooldown and making it into, I think this will make it like a 4-minute maybe, depending on how many Death Coil casts we get. Epidemic cast makes that interesting as well, because that just makes it more valuable for M+, because in M+, if you were forced to Death Coil to reduce your army cooldown, that's just rude, isn't it? So this will allow us to basically have Army of the Dead for every boss in Mythic Plus. I'm guessing, obviously unless you don't do much trash in between. But that is interesting. Apocalypse reduced by Death Coil and Epidemic casts also comes with the Magus of the Dead. So I don't know if you can see what they're trying to do. They're trying to change our entire class fantasy from diseases and plague to pets. Okay. Now I've kind of seen them doing this the entire expansion, and I honestly disagree with it. I do think Unholy should be more orientated around diseases and plague, and I don't think pets should be the orientation. Because what's this going to do is less Army of the Deads, right? Lower cooldown of Army of the Dead, so more ghouls. Apocalypse reduced cooldown, more ghouls. Magus involved, just more pets in general. So just pets, 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 pets. This might actually change the way that we are going to talent and spec for bosses, because I think this will severely increase our DPS single target. I don't see any changes. I don't really see any changes to our kits for AoE at all, except for the Covenant abilities, which we'll cross over in a sec. And then they've gone, and Mastery Dreadblade now increases Death Knight shadow damage and damage of minions. Now let me just see. I can't spell. I just want to double check one thing. Thought so. So this even confirms the theory even more. So currently our mastery is increases the damage of your shadow damage abilities by 18%. Now increases Death Knight's shadow damage and damage of minions. Damage of minions. So again, they're really pushing on the whole buffing pet damage. So this is literally going to seriously put a massive emphasis on our abilities, on our pets doing damage. And guys, now more than ever, if our pets are going to be a large source of our damage, you need to be really on top of your macro game on your pet. And I can definitely touch base on that again before the expansion hits. But yeah, that is just very, very strange that we're kind of taking the BM Hunter kind of aspect of things. So, right, let's go into Frost. Now can choose between 1H and 2H weapons again. Congratulations, everyone that made a post for Frost asking for 2N weapons. It's back. It is back. You can now wield 2H weapons as Frost. That's huge. That's like I actually think the population of Death Knights just quadrupled. Frostbrim's Fury is now baseline. That's perfectly fine. It's pretty ridiculous not having that ability baseline. It's a huge 2-minute cooldown for them. And Hypothermic Presence. New talent. Hypothermic Presence halves the runic power cost of abilities for a moderate amount of time. Honestly, Frost has literally got nothing. That is absolutely nothing, guys. Very weird. Rune Tap is now baseline. That's good. Blood Tap allows Death Knights to consume essence from slain enemies. Generate 1 rune and is repeatable whenever a Bone Shield charge is used. Interesting. Relish in Blood. Relish in Blood will significantly heal when those bloody bruises for each active Bone Shield charge and grant 5 runic power when Death and Decay is cast when Crimson Scourge is active. Okay. Honestly, I think Unholy probably got the most out of that, but again, this is just old material, recycled, and literally BFA. That's all it is. And these changes here, all of this is what we used to have in the past. This is just a flashback, guys. They're bringing back what we used to have. Not that is a bad thing, but they just didn't want to think of anything. And this is the whole unpruning thing that Mr. Ian Hazacostas has kind of emphasized. I was just kind of having a quick gaze over like everything else. Heart of the Wild talents back for druids. Hunters get volley. I don't know if you guys remember volley, like the arrows on just coming down. That's just funny. Alter Time is back. It got reworked a little bit. That ability actually was awesome in MOP. Monk. This was weird. So I'm scared, guys. Fortifying Brew. Sorry. Fortifying Brew and Touch of Death is baseline. So Brew and Mistweaver are going to have Touch of Death. Isn't that a little bit weird? And Mistweaver coming at you with, what do you call it, Crane, and like absolutely one-shotting you. Windwalker can now choose between 1H and 2H weapons. Whoa. Okay. And they've changed Touch of Death to basically be like an instant kill, which is quite interesting. Paladins all have Holy Power back to all specializations. Let's have a look. Priests, Mind Soothe. Power Fusion is reworked. It can now be cast on allies. Ooh, that is interesting. Okay. Rogue was quite weird. They've kind of like basically made all the poisons baseline, so all specs have poisons, and a few other things there, nothing too crazy. Shaman, they're removing a Maelstrom. That is huge. They're bringing back a lot of the curses for Warlocks. They're bringing back some of the shouts, and oh, huge thing here. Where is it? Where is it? It's the ability. Okay, that is very strange. Ignore Pain is now baseline, so other specs can use it. That is very interesting. Okay. All right. And they actually touch base on this the reasoning behind their changes. I haven't read this, guys. Let me just have a quick look over the Unholy bit. An Unholy Death Knight has chosen to specialize in necromantic magic. All Unholy Death Knights will be able to use Summon Gargoyle, previously a talent, to bring these flying terrors to their side. I want to know if it is the old Gargoyle or the new one. I'm guessing honestly it's the old one because they would have said Dark Arbiter. Army of the Damned talent returns as an even stronger force. Okay. Yeah, so they're pretty much just emphasizing the changes and the fact that we're going to be focusing on pets, guys. That's what they're pretty much doing there. So honestly, guys, give me your opinions of the changes. What do you think? Us getting anti-magic zone back is just huge in itself. But yeah, what do you guys think of the changes? I'm gonna go jump into the Shadow Covenant abilities. Again, there's a lot of speculation and skepticism about these abilities. Being locked into one covenant when another covenant is better for PvP, but you have to lock into a certain covenant for raid, and you're just absolutely screwed if you want to do all three, Mythic Plus, raid, and PvP. That's the main issue that everyone's finding right now. Let's go into the Death Knight Covenant abilities. Okay. Kyrian, Shackle the Unworthy, what the heck? Admonish your target for the past transgressions, reducing the damage they deal to you, and dealing arcane damage over time. Shackle the Unworthy's cooldown is reduced when the damage the affected enemy with a rune spending attack. So very, very good for honestly, let's have a look. Is reduced when you damage the affected enemy. Okay, might be a single target ability there because you're doing an overtime effect on the single target. Okay, Venthir, Swarming Mist. A heavy mist surrounds you, increasing your chance to dodge. Deals shadow damage to overtime to enemies within range. Every time it deals damage, you gain additional runic power. That seems like quite an AoE Mythic Plus ability there. Necrolord, Abomination limb, sprout an additional limb for a limited time. I like that. Dealing shadow damage to nearby enemies. If an enemy is farther away from you, they are pulled to your location. Okay, that is very, very PvP orientated. Dealing shadow damage to nearby enemies this also kind of mixes into AoE though, so possibly an overlap there for Mythic Plus and PvP. And honestly, guys, if any Covenant ability can be used in more than one area, so PvP, Mythic Plus, or Raid PvP, I will probably be taking that one because, it's too hard otherwise. Knight's Fae, Death's Due, replaces Death and Decay, corrupts the targeted ground, causing shadow damage over a duration of time to targets within the area. Affected enemies deal reduced damage to you up to a maximum amount, and their power is transferred to you as an equal amount of strength. Interesting. While you remain in the area, your Necrotic Strike and Heart Strike will hit additional targets. Scourge Strike and Chronic Strike. Okay. Again, an AoE ability I like how they're mixing in Necrotic Strike there because they're trying to mix that into PvP. So putting multiple wounds on targets in Arena. Quite interesting there. So a bit of a mixture of things there. I think the Kyrian will be very single target orientated for raid, maybe, perhaps. And Necrolord, definitely. The ability to pull that you basically have an extra death grip is massive, massive for PvP. That just makes us our ability to chain, like to run down people even better, and fixes a bit of our mobility issues. Night Fae, large amount of AoE. I'm kind of just picturing Defile, to be honest, guys. Literally. That is literally Defile. Affected enemies deal reduced damage to you. That is quite interesting, and their power is transferred to you as an equal amount of strength. Right, so that pretty much confirms that I think tanks for M plus will be using that, and PvP, because reducing the amount of damage people do to you inside your Death and Decay is very, very big, and siphoning their strength. So there you have it, guys. That is the Covenant abilities for Death Knights. Again, these will most definitely probably be changing. These aren't locked in for sure. What is your opinion? A lot of info to kind of bombard you with, but please give me your opinion on what you think. I'm very eager to discuss it in the comments. Please follow me on social media at MFWestWow on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll catch you guys later. See you guys.